Hello, everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of the learning series by Juno School of Business. And I'm sure by now guys know that it's a platform wherein we discuss skills that will aid your corporate journey and make you a better sales professional. So that's been the ideology all across. And we all know that sales is one of the most rewarding careers one can undertake. And at Juno School, it is our endeavor to shape better sales professionals for tomorrow. So that's been the objective all across. And in fact, salespeople are the ones who actually drive it for every organization and significantly contribute to revenue generation. Most it's a human desire for everyone to grow, be it personally, professionally, and that growth can only happen when we are able to, sell ourselves to people, be it in an interview or maybe a campus or selling ideas to people. So the better we can sell, the more we grow in life. The irony is that sales is never taught as a skill in a structured format in any school or college. And at Juno School, it's our endeavor to bridge that gap through interactive online sessions with industry experts like Rupali, who's joined us today, live activities that we do, practical sessions, detailed lectures and conversations. And what we've done is we've customized that into an 8-week module, followed by placement support, which includes resume building, mock interviews, and LinkedIn profiling. One thing that I want to reiterate again and again is that these webinars that we do is a routine feature that we do on every Saturday between 12 to 1. And if in case you want to sharpen up your sales skills or you want to learn more about sales, do block your calendars every Saturday, 12 to 1. And in case if you want to know more about us, you can always write into us at junoschool.org or always schedule a chat with us at hello@junoschool.org. Now, let me welcome our industry expert today, Rupali. Rupali is currently working as a director, human capital in Matrix Partners. In her corporate journey, she's worked with organizations like RedBus, TCS, and Citibank. In this session today, she will share her experience and insights on how do we crack those critical interviews and what would be the most important do's and don'ts around the interviews. Thank you so much, Rupali, for squeezing out time and on a weekend and being part of the Juno community.
No, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks. On this note, I request Rupali to take over and share her experiences with us. Over to you, Rupali.
Thank you. Thank you so much, guys. I feel a bit guilty of the fact that I'm taking some time out of your weekends, right? And I would like to, I hope that I can do justice to that, the time that you've given us. I think Madhuru was very, very kind to give my introduction, but let me tell you a bit about myself. 13 plus years in the Indian corporate ecosystem, last 7+ years in the startup ecosystem. I've done multiple roles in HR. Luckily for me, I didn't have to do a lot of, I didn't have to give a lot of interviews, but I've taken a lot, believe me, right? So a lot of things that I tell you today is from my experience of talking to so many people, hiring for different orgs. The company that I am part of now is Matrix Partners India. We are one of the leading venture funds in India, and we invest in startup. We've got a portfolio of around 80 companies. So broadly, you can imagine we've been hiring, building teams for this set of companies across sectors, right? And I think a lot of these learnings that I'll share with you is my own, and I'm hopeful, and even if one of you gets benefited by some of my learning, I would have done my job. I'll start by telling one expectation, right? And Himadri, if you can move to the next, the expectation slide. Right, so we've done this. I'm available on LinkedIn, quite active. I'm on Twitter. Would love to stay in touch with all of you. But coming to the expectations from the session, I know you have a lot of expectation, but I have one very small expectation. I would love to see some faces. I know this is not mandatory, but we're all. I'm a very kinesthetic person. You see people, you relate, you see energies, and I'll tell you how it's important. We talk about interviews, and when you talk about interviews, you're two people sitting across each other. When you're two people sitting across each other, you're seeing each other, you're seeing the energies, you're understanding from more from each other. So I'd love to see some more faces so that I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. Right. So that's one small expectation from my end. If you can switch on some of your videos, it'll be great. I would love to keep these a bit more conversational. Feel free to ask questions. I promise that if I don't have an answer, I'll find it out and get back to you. But before I start, would love to understand. If you don't want to score, switch on your audio, type it out. Would love to understand what is your expectation from this session. Give me some of your key takeaways that you expect. Anyone?
Ma'am, good afternoon.
Yeah.
How to crack the interview, sales interview in corporate.
Okay. How to?
Basically, ma'am, how to crack this corporate interview in
okay,
sales.
Got it. Okay, say how to crack interviews. Fair. Okay. What else? That's it. That's a common ask from everyone, how to crack interviews.
One more question. How to answer in diplomatic way if someone asks a difficult question?
How to? Sorry,
how to answer in a diplomatic way?
Okay. I'll spend some time how to answer in a diplomatic way. Okay. I think somebody, but how to follow up after an interview? Okay, fine. Very tactical, but important. I'll try to cover. Anything else?
Yeah, hi Rupali.
Yes.
Basically, I just want to know one more thing. That we all know that in an interview, people just want to things like the stability and the skills. But what about other factors which can be matter in an interview to crack an interview?
Like
if we have skills but they didn't ask, so
okay, fair.
how can
okay
yes.
Okay, understood. Okay, so I got it, and I think a lot of you have some more questions.
Good afternoon. Yeah,
yes,
I have one
yes.
question,
Yes.
Rupali. This is regarding that, is there a format while giving the interview and another is taking the interview? So in both the fronts, because
Yes.
this is like marrying somebody sort of,
Yes.
that in half an
Yes,
hour
yes.
you need to judge a person and you need to give your best while giving interview.
True.
Right. So this is my question to you.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so much.
Hi. Hello.
Yes.
I just have one question here.
Yes.
Okay. So my name is Chandra Singh. Okay. So the question is, when I go through the GD, that I can understand that I have done this work, so I'm good fit for this job particularly. But then the problem is each organization has a different set of keywords or a different sort of job designation or something where at the end of the day it is pretty much similar what I'm working, right? So in such situation, how do I handle such situations? That's the one thing. And the second one is I want to know, I personally think that I'm not good in negotiating while it comes.
Okay.
So I wanted to understand a little bit more
Negotiating.
About how do I negotiate?
You mean
how can
salary
I
negotiation?
can make it win-win situation,
right? Salary negotiation, right?
Hello. I'm sorry, I
So
can't.
No, I said when you say negotiation,
You're not audible.
Are you referring to only salary? Am I not audible to everyone or just to Chandra Singh?
No, audible, ma'am.
Okay. Chandra Singh, I think we lost you. I think I got your question. How to negotiate. Okay, fair enough. I feel it is going to be a full house session in terms of talking, sharing a lot. I think I'll let a lot of cat out of the bag. But I'm glad now that I'm hearing from all of you. I'm glad I'm doing this because I do feel there is a need for this session. Okay, let's take a dig at it. I'm going to try to touch upon all of these, right? But at the end, please resync if you feel we haven't touched on some of these aspects, right? I'm not going to take each question at a time now, but we'll touch upon each one of them, and I'll leave a lot of time, for questions. I think that would be more relatable. Okay. Can we go ahead from the next slide, for the next slide, the first one? So I get the expectation from the session. I intended to cover this today. I intended to cover, do you need a strategy, right? Yes, I think the answer is yes, we need a strategy. And I would cover it, what happens before a strategy, right? Before you go for an interview, during an interview, and after, right? A lot of your questions would get covered in this. Out of the question that I heard today, right, I think what I'm getting the sense is the strategies are more or less pertaining to that interview during that process, right? And I think that's the first problem that we need to solve, and I'm going to tell you guys more. I'm not sure how many of you have aspirations to move to a startup, right? Startups have been in the news for all the right reasons, for all the wrong reasons, but we like it, we hate it, or whatever, but it's going to be the next big thing. So if your aspirations is startup, is there a hack to break it? There is no one hack, but is there another strategy for it? My answer would be yes. I will also touch upon what career decision framework do I use, right, in terms of my decision making. And, I'll try to give you that framework. And if that can be a guiding factor to all of you, for you to make your next subsequent decisions, I'll be more than honored, right? And we'll take a lot of Q&As. Yeah, great. Okay, let's move on. Next slide, please. Okay, guys, so we talked about strategy, and I did tell you that, strategy is needed. Tell me honestly, you don't have to answer, how many of you, before applying for a job, have taken some time off and decided what would be your job search strategy? I don't think most of you have done it, right? It's more about job chahiye, let me apply 10 roles I've seen, I've applied. If I've not seen, I've not applied, writing to 10 people who we don't know whether they have a meaningful job for me or not, right? I think that's the worst move that you can make for your career, okay? I can understand a fresh graduate out of campus doing it because, he or she doesn't have a baseline. But anybody with even 1 or 2 years experience, if you have not spend a week or a month putting a strategy in place, you are burning a lot of energy, you're wasting it. And I'll tell you why. You would be, when you don't put a strategy, you will take wrong decisions in career. Wrong decisions will pull your confidence down because it will not be win-win. A low confidence will impact how you take your next subsequent decisions in terms of career, and it becomes a spiraling effect, right? So I would always say, spend time to put a strategy in place even before you go into interviewing mode. Okay, so that's what. And hence the process doesn't start since the time you get a call for a job. It starts way before that, right? And then we'll spend more time. I think somebody can't hear my voice. Is it for everyone? I got a...
No, ma'am, you're Christian.
Yeah. Okay, Rohit, I'm sorry, but I'm as loud as possible. I've been told that I'm quite loud. Yeah, I'm hoping that you can increase your volume and sort out the technicalities. But coming back to this, can you go back, please? Go back from a slide perspective. Yes, as I said, right? You'll make bad decisions. And hence, strategy and research is important. Research gives you knowledge. Knowledge gives you the power to take right decisions, right? And the best decisions happen when you are taking it from a position of strength, when you're not rushed, when you're not helpless, when you're not stressed, right? Isn't it? The best decision you take when you have choices, when you know why you're picking one over another, right? And to make those choices, you'll need information. And for information, you'll need research, right? This is how it's connected. And hence my answer any day would be strategy is needed, right? And for everyone, the strategy would change and we'll spend more time on that. Yeah, please continue. So I'm going to divide the process into 3 bits: the before, during, and after, right? Okay, so before you start going on an interview, you need to ask yourself, Why do you want to change? What is your trigger? Is it money? Is it motivation? Is it empowerment? Is it a new role? Is it because you hate your boss? Is it because the company is very toxic? Whatever is your motivation, right? Because your strategy will change, right? The moment you say, I want to get into a company which is better employee benefits, better employee culture, then you guys are a sales guy. You know about TG, right? Your target segment, right? The moment you say, I want to get into a company which is better culture, then your TG changes. The moment you say, I want to get into a company which allows me to move from a tech to a product role, then your TG changes. And if you say, I want to get into a company where I can do a lot more, then your TG changes, right? So even before applying for the 100 of companies that keeps popping up, right? You would need to figure out what is your TG. Why are you moving, right? And I call it the North Star, right? I call it, you have to connect it with my North Star. What is your North Star? You all know North Star, right? You know, the farthest star that we see. That's like the pinnacle of my aspiration. This is where I want to be at the end of my career. It can be anything. It can be entrepreneurship. It can be, I want to be a CEO. A content guy might say, I want to be a chief marketing officer. A sales officer, Gras will say, I want to be the CBO of a company, chief business officer, whatever, right? Whatever is your North Star. Once you understand your North Star, you know where you stand and you know where your gaps are, right? So guys, what I'm trying to tell you is a bit deep, but you have to understand how it works, right? So if my North Star today, I'm in HR, and I feel that if my North Star is CHRO, by the way, that's not right. That's not my North Star. But if my North Star is to become a chief human resource officer, right? And I am a new recruiter, that becomes my gap. So every job in the next, and I'll have to put a timeline, right? If I want to become a CHRO in 15 years, right? Then every job that I change in that 15 years should be bringing me closer to that North Star, right? And hence, you know why strategy is important. Now, let's take again my example, right? If I know a CHRO needs recruitment, compensation benefit, HRBP, all experience, my objective throughout my career changes should be to get experience in all of these, right? So that's how you need to plan before an interview, and then use it to strategize your career, right? If you want to be a sales head in a company, because I'm connecting it, then you need to figure out who are your aspirational sales guy. Take out 10 people who you look forward to from a career perspective, right? And look at how they have changed it, how they have moved there. It will also give you a sense of what kind of companies they went through, what kind of roles they went through, right? So I think those mental mapping to those profiles are very important. It'll give you a sense of how people move. And believe me, a trend would come out, right? So this is the amount of research you have to do. And then one error that all of us make is we start applying, we start working on a resume only when we need a job. Otherwise, we're completely in hibernation mode, right? That's wrong. You need to be active throughout. You need to be reading enough. You need to be relevant enough. You need to be engaging enough with the right ecosystem, and not sporadically. Okay, it has to be constant. So this is your before interview. Now, by this research, what all you have done, you have decided, I am a sales guy. I want to go to CPG, FMCG companies, if that's the objective. I want to get into a PepsiCo or a Coke or a HUL, sales teams, because they have the best sales learning, right? And then you need to figure out what kind of people work in this company and how have they moved there. Right? So you've done all this research. Now, if that's your aspiration, right, you'll also get to know after that, applying to a company which is not giving you the relevant experience to reach to that North Star, does it help? It doesn't help, right? So you need to apply for companies in such a way that you're only applying to company which allows you to gain or implement skills that helps you reach to your aspirational role, right? So hence there is a lot of interview that research that has to happen before you go on to an interview. I will tell you guys, don't make the mistake of just randomly applying, not reading JDs. I'll tell you what happens. Technology is updated, ATS are connected, right? So I'll tell you the flow, how it works out. So today, because I can only see Jabir, I'm going to take Jabir's name, right? If Jabir applies to 10 profiles, right, left, center, and say I have applied and I have a very amazing ATS at the back, right? What happens? It can be a performance marketing profile. Jabir is a sales guy, but Jabir is not seen. He's duck, he's applied. The application comes to me, right? The application comes to me in my ATS, and I say, the role is performance marketing. The guy is a sales guy. He's never done performance marketing, right? So what I will do, I will tag your profile as non-relevant in my system, right? So every time you apply, even if next time for a relevant profile, you're already tagged as non-relevant. You getting my point? How the flow. So you may think, kya jata hai? I'm just applying. If I'm not eligible, I'm not eligible. See, being aspirational is good. You need to be smart also while applying, right? So apply to roles where you have the right competence. There is, if not 100% fitment, there is a 50% fitment, right? So that the remaining gap can be covered by your intrinsic, your behavior, your communication, all of it. So that's the first stage. The second stage is your during the interview stage, right? So hypothetically thinking, can we move to the next slide, please? So hypothetically thinking, if we have done the research, we know these are my 10 companies I want to apply to. These are the 10 kind of roles I want to apply to, right? And I'll come to that resume. Can you move to the next slide, please, Juno team? Yeah. Yes. So yeah, good question. And I think I managed to put a slide on resume. Before we go to the during stage, right? I think you would all think, is resume important? At my stage, I have the privilege to tell you that I don't need to create a resume, right? I have that privilege and I've earned it. But a lot of us, do we need to create a resume? My answer is yes. Yes, it at least helps you stand out amongst the crowd, right? It acts like a conversation starter. Otherwise, I don't know Jabir today. At least today, I will need a resume from him to at least kickstart a discussion. Sorry, there's a lot of disturbance. Yeah. So resume, is it important? Yes, my friends, it is very important, right? I have reviewed hundreds and thousands of resume in my last 10 odd years, right? And believe me when I tell you, I think I've learned some bit of do's and don'ts, right? And I'll give you a typical trait of a good resume. I'll tell you how good resumes look like. Basic. A good resume will show your career journey. It is simple. It is not overtly salesy, by the way. Don't put undue stuff, XYZ. They're generally so short. I don't have the mind space to go through a 3-pager. 1-pager is good for me. If you are very senior, then a 2-page. But if you've got 5 years experience, if you still have to create a 2-pager resume, then you're being very, very salesy, right? It is generally short. It is very easy to read, and it is error proof. There is no mistake, right? It also shows the impact on the business that you have created. It doesn't say my communication is very good and all of it. It says, I have taken the category from a XYZ to a ABC. I have led the P&L of a business by 3x. So those are impact on the business you have created, right? See, when Himadri started, he said, right, we're sales folks, but nobody taught sales as such, right? And believe me, guys, everything is sales. Recruitment is sales. Hiring is sales. Selling yourself is sales, right? And hence, all of us need to be able to be storytellers. What do you, when you go to the market and sell, you're telling stories, right? In terms of how this product or a service is important and will benefit. So you're connecting you're creating a need for that, right? And you're telling how this will fulfill that need. We're all storytellers, right? When I'm recruiting, I'm selling the story of a role. I'm selling the story of how this company is the best company for the person to work. So equally, I think, all of you need to be storytellers, and your resume should be able to tell some bit of story, right? Many a time I've seen, and I'm not exaggerating, I get on an average 2-3 emails per day where I just get an attachment. Nothing is written, right? I just get an attachment telling, and I'm thinking, what am I supposed to do with that, right? And emails would be, do you have a job? So the moment you say, do you have a job, you're asking me to put a lot of effort, right? You're getting my point. Do you have a job for me means you're asking me to look at your profile. You're asking me to think of all the open roles that I have, then try to see if there is a match, and then go back to you and say, yes, I have XYZ. It's too much effort for any recruiter. Why in the world would I want to do that? The same way, use the same email to say, I have seen that you've applied, you have posted XYZ job. I have this skill and I think I am relevant. So you are bringing the work less for the recruiter. You are clearly telling him or her, I have done the research. This is my resume. You have a role. I have XYZ skill and it is fit for the role, right? Which is easier? Where is the probability of you getting a response is higher? You know the answer, right? So in gist, resumes are important. They are smart resumes. People do index. I don't spend time on cover letter and all, right? Honestly, I don't even open resumes nowadays. I look at LinkedIn profiles, right? And I have some biases now. If LinkedIn profiles are not updated, I feel the person is not relevant, right? If you are a marketeer, if you're a sales guy, especially B2B sales and all, because B2B sales gets generated a lot in LinkedIn, right? And your profile in itself is not updated, I will create some bias, right? So LinkedIn profile is, I think a lot of recruiters only look at LinkedIn profile nowadays, right? So if you haven't optimized your LinkedIn profile, I think you should. I think there are a lot of hacks around how to optimize and all of it, right? So that's on the resume. Going ahead. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So during the interview stage, so what we have done, let's go back. We have strategized which companies do I want to apply to. We have strategized which kind of roles do I want to apply to, and we are only looking for those roles and those companies or similar companies and applying, right? This is still there. Now we have gone one step ahead and say, okay, now I know my TG, but this is how my resume should look like, and I'm prepared now. I'm completely prepared before applying. Now I will start applying, and I get lucky because I'm more relevant. I have focused on the right TG where there's a fitment, there is more relevancy. The propensity of me getting more responses are higher, right? So I get a call. How many of you spend time reading more about the company 2-3 days, 4 days ahead of time? My answer would be not too many. And that's the biggest mistake. Many a time get into the job. Many a time when I ask question, do you know about the role? No, I haven't had the time to read about it. That's the last thing you guys should do. After doing all the strategies and homework and preparing interviews and applying, if you don't show interest, you are not giving respect to your time that you have given. You're not showing respect to the other person's time. And this goes equally all for recruiters. You can say recruiters come and they have not looked into, and I know that, right? I know that that happens. But if you see the recruiter is also not prepared, then in itself also is a reflection of the company. Will also help you understand how the company recruits, right? I would be completely skeptical to join a organization where recruiters are not prepared, because for me that's the first, right? And believe me guys, I'm not exaggerating. I speak to on an average 7 to 8% per day. Every resume I go through a previous day to understand how their profile looks like, what have they done, what kind of question. I index 3-4 questions for each profile specific to them, right? So there is a lot of preparation that needs to be done, because you want to have that conversation more meaningful. You need to reference, guys. We all know employers reference. I'm not talking about reference, job le liya, this check, that check. I'm not talking about reference at the end, that these are my two managers, talk to them. I'm talking about extreme due diligence. If you're leaving a company because you are very, very upset about the manager or whatever, right? If you're going to the next one, you want to ensure that doesn't happen, right? So you need to be completely pakka about who the person that you're referring to, how the culture. So you need to talk to people who work there. You need to talk to people who've reported to this person that you'll eventually be reporting to, all right? So I think as the companies do a lot of reference, you also need to do a lot of reference in terms of what this company is all about, right? So I think that is something given. You should do that. Another question that I'll always say, right? It's good to be aspirational, but don't fake it, because you can fake an interview, or you can fake 5 levels of interview, but you can't fake impact. To create impact, you need to have skills. So if you're not confident to build that you'll be able to build that skill in the next 3 months, don't fake it, because you'll be setting yourself up for failure. Right? So be very, very intellectually honest to yourself. Is this a role? If you have been lucky to break into a role where you don't have the right, go all out to ensure that you build that skill to be able to start delivering as soon as possible, because everybody is in a rush to contribute. Yeah. And during the process, right, during the interview process, you have when you're doing, so I'm assuming, right, you've done your analysis, you've prepared, you've done your referencing, and you've realized that this is not a space for me, or this is not the right role for me, right? Close the loop out. Don't stretch the dilemma. Close the loop out very, very professionally. Thank you for your time. I've thought and I've understood and I've analyzed, and this might not be the right role for me, right? But I would love to be in touch. Don't burn bridges. Don't start ghosting employers. Don't start ghosting recruiters, because you never know when you need to come back to that. It's a small world. People talk. It's, communities are created. Everything is on, everything is on LinkedIn. Everything is on Twitter, right? So I think what I will say is take right decision, take very informed decision, but take it on the right time and communicate very professionally. Believe me, on the other side also, people expect that. I have so many people that I'm still in touch with who have rejected our offers 2-3 times. You don't end up hating on because, but they were very professional. They were very professional to tell us why they weren't going. And I think they're right. Why they aren't taking XYZ, why they are picking something, but they didn't drag it for a long period of time, right? So that is something that I will suggest all of you, because as you start your career, you will have a lot of career changes to be done. And you never know. A recruiter today might go to tomorrow. I'm just thinking Netflix, and Netflix is your aspirational company to be, right? People only remember the bad things. People don't remember the good things, right? So I will always suggest don't burn your bridges. Okay. And as I said, ATS are powerful nowadays. The moment you don't close the loop, right? Companies put things like blacklisted, XYZ, right? So close feedback in a good way and take decisions at the right time. So that's your during the interview stage strategy. Going next. After the interview, and I think there was one question around negotiation. You should negotiate, but yet be rational. And I'll tell you how. Everything will fall into place now. Guys, if you have done research, if you know that I want to be a city head in this kind of company and I have the right competence, because you've done your research, you know what competency, what skills are needed for a city head and what generally would be other city heads' salary, right? So you know where you need to be. So that baseline becomes your negotiation baseline, right? So negotiate, keeping in mind what you bring on the table. There has to be an arbitrage. You always have to go above, but you also need to be able to validate what you bring on the table for that amount of price or the role, right? You can say, I need XYZ empowerment on that date. I want that much freedom to do this many things on day one. But see from the other side, why will an employer give you that amount of freedom? Some of these are to be earned over a period and not to be taken on it. You know, how can you negotiate? You can negotiate, if I do XYZ, can I in 6 months have a team of my own? Right? All of these. But I have never managed a team. I have always been an individual contributor. But for this role, I need a team of 5 people. That's being a bit unrealistic. But how I will handle is, I like the scope of the role. I am going to take it up. I am going to understand how we will scale it up. And I hope you guys are prepped to build a team under me as we go by. And you'll get broad sense, right? Guys, for me, I think I may sound a bit old school. Work ethics are very important. It shows in multiple ways. It shows in, are you late? Are you responding on email? Are you communicating? A very small thing. Are you keeping the team up? And when I say work ethics, on both sides, you know, is the employer responding you? So, you know, I think those shows, and I use them a lot. I also see people's behavior, right? Whenever I'm doing one-on-one interaction, I also see things like, if it's a senior guy I'm hiring for, how is he behaved when my office guy came and gave him a cup of coffee, right? For me, those signs are very important. You can't fake it, right? If it's a role where the person has to handle a big team, right? Different type of people. For me, some of those ethics are very, very important, right? And people see. Once you have landed up a job, you know what what we generally do, we put down a paper, we're done, we have 2-3 months notice, and we're all happy, we'll join. That time period is a time period that gives you enough time to prep for the role, right? Start preparing for the role that you're going to take over, right? Because by the time you join, you'll already be 10% better prepared than what you were when you landed up the job. So look at the company, look at what they're solving, look at the other people, right? And start networking, keeping that, right? So if you say, I was into consumer company, now I'm going to sales, enterprise company, right? And this company sells, they mostly sell to other corporates, right? So you can start building that corporate network already. And when you say network, don't always network upward. It's very easy, right? I want to know the seniors, all of it. That's a very organic requirement. Network below. Always start with networking below you. When you're networking below, you're helping a lot, right? When you're helping a lot, it starts connecting. Some of the best references that I get are people who are junior to those guys. They're junior to those, and I get, Rupali, one of my senior is looking for this job. One of somebody that I work, somebody who will help me is looking for it. So a lot of references. Believe me, senior people refer less. They have less time. Juniors refer more. They will give you more leads. So I think when you're networking, you should network keeping your what's the new role that you're going to take over in a few months, right? So that's the after the interview stage. And as I said, right, if you've taken up a job, be a bit honest to the process. I'm not saying it's wrong to go for a higher job, and yes, please do. Please completely do that. But close feedback for the companies, right? It's completely fair to pick up a job over another, to choose one, but don't keep it dragging till the end day, right? Unless you've taken the decision on the end day. If you're taking the decision on the end day, that also shows that you're a bit reckless with decision, right? You're not planning it ahead, right? So I think close the loop. Close feedback on time, and yes, I think don't burn bridges. This is what, when I look at, start strategizing before the interview, during the interview, and after, right? So broadly this, happy to take some Q&As now that we have looked at this as a process. Any questions specific to this? More tactical, because I know I've covered more overall, but happy to handle any tactical question. Yeah. I got one question here. Okay, I'm going to take it from here. Okay, so here there is a lot of questions I'm going to have. How to follow up after an interview? See, following up is a thin line. Don't stalk Don't start stalking. Many a time, the reality of life is not everybody will respond back, right? Make your peace, move with it. Don't stalk people. Another thing, if you are relevant, recruiters will come back to you. So your objective should be to become relevant and not to get an update, right? But if you've already spent so much process, you've done 3-4 levels of round, and now you're, then it is completely fair to, follow up stating that, gone through this YG, I haven't heard back. Pause for like a week, even if they have not responded. Reply back telling that, hi, rechecking on this, after, it's only fair that after 3-4 levels of discussion, I will come back. I was hoping to hear something from the team, but because I haven't heard for the last 2 weeks, I'm assuming you guys are not proceeding with my profile, right? And just wrap it up, close the loop at your end, right? So that's how follow-up generally is done. My objective is make yourself so relevant that they will follow up with you and not the other way around. Yeah. How to be mindful of our body language, and and should be, of course, guys, again, I may sound old school, but with COVID, with digital interviews, sometimes I make my impression in the first 5 minutes. There's a lot of disturbance. Okay. Yeah. I think I'm not saying don't look nice. I'm not saying that, be prepared, be overdressed, but look presentable. Look presentable in such a way that it shows that you're at least taking the process seriously. I have had chances where people have just walked out, look like they've walked out of their bed, right? Even if the guy is very good, I've already made an impression of that person in my head, right? So I think, because see, I'll tell you what, I'm taking that half an hour time from my schedule to spend time to know you for a job that you want. The moment I get this feeling that you're not serious, you haven't come prepared at all, you're asking me, I don't know about the role, you look as if you just walked out of your bed, right? You have lost me there. I will not even put effort to know you more. And you might have stellar functional skills, right? So is body language important? Yes. I want to know, see, there are different energies. Energies is not shouting on the top of the energy is, are you presentable? Are you able to communicate what you want? Am I getting that positive vibe of interest and intent from you for the role, right? Do I see that you are equally present in that half an hour, 1 hour discussion with me? And it goes equally well. If you see the other person is not, feel free to say that I feel you're distracted, as a recruiter, feel free to say, right? So I think body language, is it important? Very important, guys. That helps. Many a time I think, you may call me a bit biased, but I have made impression in the first 5 minutes, right? Because I didn't feel the person was interested to tell me about him or her, right? And I think even if the person would have done a lot of great stuff, I think I would have just overlooked it after a while, right? So body language, energy, how you come across, how you present yourself is very, very important. The next question is, let's say the interviewer says that we'll consider you for a role, and see, I'll tell you, in that case, if I'm, new, another role, ask what role? What role are they considering you for? If it's a role that you're not interested, I think you can just close the discussion then and there. If it's a role that you're aspirational for, why not? You can start preparing for that. How to crack interview at Matrix Partners, right? Very good question. I will connect with you offline, but let me give you what. Guys, we are a portfolio of 80 companies. We invest in some of the smartest founders, right? And I would like to believe that they, we meet a lot and then invest in one, right? And I would like to believe that the best of the best in India can deliver, right? If I have to help them, I can't help them. They will not just take my support only because I'm part of Matrix Partners. They will take my support because I add value. I can add value only because if I have enough knowledge. right? So what matrix looks at while interviewing, do you have the capability and the career track to command that respect from a very, very high performance set of people, right, in the portfolio? So that's a very long answer, but Arin Suri, please feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn. I would love to spend more time as to what it takes to get into matrix. We have spoken about first impression. Modify resume according to JD. Yes, very tactical, very important. Right? See, you can't change what you are. You can't change what you have done. Right? But if you, so I'll give you example. If you are a marketing person, right, and you see you've done marketing, you've done content, you've done performance, you've done retention, if you've done all of it in bits and pieces, and you've seen the role that you're applying for is more performance marketing heavy than content heavy. So you can tweak your resume in such a way that it's highlighting the impact that you've created on the performance side, DAO, MAU, conversion, all of it, right? But if you see that the focus is more content heavy, a company bhi content karti hai jyada, you've seen they do, then you may want to say, how have you done influencer? How have you done some of it, right? So you will have to tweak it, but you can't, as I said, you can't fake it. Because a resume, again, I said, it cannot be too big. It can be like only 1 page or max 2 page, right? So when you can't put everything that you've done, right? So when I say tweak your resume, tweak right, because if you put something, you'll have to justify also in the interview, right? So don't fake it, right? And I'll give you example. So we all know Uber and Paytm integration, right? Uber wallet, this is the first time. So I remember, I know the person who created that feature, right? Who bought that feature in multiple years back. And while we were interviewing 3-4 years back, everybody would come and say, I bought Paytm and wallet, Paytm and Uber on the table and, integrated that, right? And some of these impacts are very, very loud and easily verified, right? So don't fake it. When even you've done it, you show it. If you've not done it, don't show it. And feel free to say, I didn't lead it, I was part of the team, right? And the expectation question from you would be similar. What would be the right channel to approach job search? Maybe I've not got the question. I'll still try to take a dig on it. See, it also depends on what level are you and what relevant, right? You can't go to LinkedIn and not too many fresher jobs, right? You can't go to IIM or a Naukri and apply for very, very senior CXO jobs, right? Us level pe you don't need resume also. So I think it also depends on the team. If a techie, you will not find his resume in Naukri or anywhere. They will go to GitHubs and other space, right? Relevant tech platform. So pick up those platform according to the skill that you have. So if that's one answer. I've got one, and I'll try to, because it's a bit vague. How relevant is to discuss the role budget before the interview schedule? Very relevant, I think. You can always say, is there a budget in place, right? You can always ask. They'll give you broad answers. I'll tell you what. I think it's been almost 7 years. I never had to ask as a recruiter. I never had to ask, what is your current CTC? I don't think anybody can tell me that Rupali has asked this question in the last 7+ years. I haven't, but I still find out, because you need to find out, right? What is there from comp perspective. I have a budget in mind. What I generally ask a person is, the role, XYZ, but what is the compensation play zone you have in mind? Which means that how am I rating my skills? So I generally ask a candidate, what is the play zone you have in mind? So even if I'm at a 20 and my expectation is 40, I'm fine. I will say, as a candidate, I'll say, I'm looking for a 40 to 50 kind of a CTC, whatever, right? Because then and how I justify that is my take. Is my skill worthy to be that? And believe me, 99% of the time, whenever I never ask people, what is your current salary? What is your play zone? I always ask, what is your comfortable zone, right? Non-negotiable play zone. They always say, my current is this. My current, I never ask what is your current. I ask what are you, what is the value you put on your skill. They always start by saying my current is this, which again ties up to it that you haven't done research enough. You haven't, if you want to become a sales head, right, and you have the right skill, you have not done your research enough to understand what is the sales head salary looks like, right? If you've done, you will generally quote a play zone that fits into that zone, right? So I think it's very fair to put a rate on your skill, right? Believe me, guys, don't go for the highest bidder. Something just too good on the paper should make you a bit cautious, right? And there are enough examples all around. So yes, I think it's completely fair to understand a budget. Because why it's fair? Because you're putting your time and energy, effort for that process. And if something as tactical as a salary makes you misfit for that, I think you should stop it, right? So I think with this, I'll go to the next, and then maybe we'll take again some more questions. Can we move to the next slide, please? We've taken the Q&A. I don't know the next. I don't know how many of you want to come to startup. Is there anybody who has aspirations to come to startup? When I say startup, I'm meaning the seed, Series A, Series B, Series C kind of startup, more tech first startup, technology first, e-commerce, B2C, consumer internet, fintech, SaaS, B2B commerce kind of an ecosystem. If that's an aspiration, how do you change? There is always a dichotomy, right? Early stages, fast and more money and all of it. But it's also very risky. Right? So there is always a trade-off, right? So before you want to come into startup, guys, I will tell you 4 things, very, very important. If you're ready for this, you should come to startup. If you're not ready for this, don't come to startup. The first thing is, why do you want to come to startup? If you want to come to startup because, everybody gets more money, everybody's getting ESOP, everybody's turning into a millionaire, right? Then I will ask you to pause there, because not every startup makes it big. Only few does, and only the few good that does gets heard, not everything else, right? So you need to understand what is your motivator for the change. If you come from larger ecosystem, and if you have romanticized startup, it's fast and you are empowered and you get to do, believe me, the hustle is real. The pace is so fast. I have transitioned myself. You go from, you really, really have to stretch, right? Because when you're building something from scratch, right, it needs a lot of time and attention and mind space. So if you're not ready, if you feel that I need my weekend, I need my time, which is completely fair. If you are a family guy, you want to spend more time with family, completely fair. In that case, don't move to startup, because then you'll always be juggling between both. Don't get obsessed with job descriptions, because startup, they themselves are building something from the scratch. They will not have set JDs, right? So if you're okay to move into an ecosystem where JDs are not fixed, but you get to do a lot, build a lot, create your own JD, you should go to startup. And the last but not the least, again, if you're coming from a large scale ecosystem, unless you are willing to unlearn, don't come to startup, because things would be different. You come from very process setup, to track leads, there is another team to respond to customer queries, or there is another team, there is a system to understand who did you connected last, and there is a 6-month break, and now you have to, there is a reminder for you to reach out. Startup will not have some of it, but the best part is you get to create, right? So unless you're willing, and unless you're willing to unlearn a lot of learned habits in the large scale ecosystem, startup journey would be difficult, right? So I think if you've done some of this bit and your motivations are in the right place, and if you have a thicker skin, right, if you have a thicker skin to take risk, startup is an amazing place to be. Yeah. Next. Okay, so I'm going to give a hack out today, what I have used. Is there a career framework? I call it the ICE model. Okay. I have used it for over 9 years. Thankfully, I didn't have to use it too many times. But every time somebody reaches out to me for a job or for a role, right, I don't say no at first stage while I'm extremely happy in what I'm doing, right? But I look at the role from my ICE lens. Okay, I call it ICE. The first is industry. So if somebody says, I have a role, sorry if anybody's from the telecom sector, but I have a role in a telecom sector. It's I'm a role. So I will look at that industry and say, is the industry interesting enough for the next 5 years, right? And I say, telecom may not, it's there, but it's no longer the most happening hyper growth industry, right? So you'll have to answer where the industry lies. Once that's the first order. If the industry is not going to grow in the next 5 years, I will say stop your process then and there. Secondly, after second priority is company. Now you've decided, okay, the industry is startup, it's SaaS, the next big thing. There are unicorns coming in startup. Freshwork has gone IPO. India is building here for the world and all of it. Now I will say industry is tick, good industry. Yeah.
Lead Square is a unicorn company now. SaaS
Sorry,
company.
which one?
Lead Square, ma'am.
Yes, that's what I said. SaaS is the next big thing, right? You have Freshwork going IPO, you have so many, HR SaaS ecosystem growing. So SaaS is, and there are companies building in India for the world. They're selling for the world, right? So now if the industry is good, you need to figure out where the company is. The second priority becomes company. Is the company already in the top 5 in that industry? Good. Yes, second boxes. If it's not in there, does it have the potential to be there? Is the founder very strong? Is it being backed by some of the best VC? Is the idea interesting? Is the idea differential, right? So you'll have to do a lot of these question checks. So now you have done industry, you have done company, all boxes ticked. Good, great. Now comes employee. Okay, that's the third priority. In employee, everything comes. What is going to be my role? What is the culture? What is going to be my salary? What is going to be my designation? What are the other benefits I'm getting? Free food, free cabs, bean bags, office cabs, all of it. Right? These are the other aspects. Where we make the mistake? We make the mistake of deciding our career based on priority 3 and we ignore 2 and 1. Most important. And I'll tell you why this process is foolproof. And I'm going to give you the hack out, okay? If you have picked up a role based on this, hypothetically, in a SaaS industry, in one of the top 6, let's say not even the top 5, a hyper growth, fast growing startup, but for some reason it didn't work out. It can be the manager was a jerk and you didn't want it to work out, the culture was toxic, right? Whatever. If you couldn't sustain, or they ramped down, or they had to, but the industry was good, the company was good, right? And you and if you're very, very good in what you do, because the industry is always doing well, right? There are you will always get a job. Your job will always have a need in the market. However, even if you have the best employee factors ticked in, your role is great, your company culture is great, your salary is great, your designation is very high fundu, whatever, right? But the industry in itself is not growing, or the company within the industry is not doing well, right? Then even if tomorrow you lose the job, or you have to leave it, or whatever reason, or you have to take a break, you will not easily find, you're stuck there. You will not easily find another job. So my framework, I have, the first thing many times people tell me, the salary is this much. We tend to get distracted, but guys, don't get distracted. Don't get distracted. I'll tell you a story. I started my career in TCS. I love that company, but TCS is not one of the best paymaster. Everybody knows it, right? And in the first 4 years, I stopped going to alumni functions where, all alumni of my camp, because if all my friends had changed and they would have reached 4-5x salary than I was, right? And everybody ends up coming to alumni functions and says, I'm in this salary, I'm in this designation. We tend to get a lot distracted, but I didn't. And believe me, what I learned from TCS in the first 4 years, right? I'm still optimizing them in terms of learning. So I generally tell, index in learning first. We tend to get distracted by employee specific factors, because if you're really good and your learning is good, everything catches up with you. right? It's better for everything catch up with you. Yeah. But it is not good if you've already reached there and you're not able to justify that salary after a while. You're stuck there and you'll start going down, right? So I started there, I love the ecosystem. A lot of my learnings today comes from that. I know scale, I know discipline, why scale is needed, right? So today when I have to build for small companies, I have the big scale in mind. While I'm building small, but I know how scale looks. So I'm building today, I know that this can be scalable to the larger ecosystem, right? So I think learning in the first few years is more important than everything else, right? So this is the framework that I've used, worked beautifully well. Feel free to, every time you guys know how to reach out to me. I'm generally very reachable, responsive on LinkedIn. So if you are stuck, feel free to reach out and I'll try to see if I can help you. So that's on the framework. Last but not the least, I have one very, very important thing to tell you as you guys grow, up on your career. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we started with telling, do you need a strategy for interview? And we said, yeah, all of it. I will end up telling that you can definitely reach a stage where you don't need an interview process. It will become redundant for you, right? Can this be done? Yes, my friends. If you start focusing on the right strategy from now, you will reach a situation where you never have to sit for interviews, right? That's when that you will reach when your work talks way higher than your resume or what you will tell in that 3-4 hours, right? Where everybody has seen the kind of impact you created. And believe me, then the right role will come to you and say, "Ab join kab karoge?" Right? So redundancy can happen. And how do you do that? Focus on your network, upwards and downwards, right network. Right, start throwing footprints on social media, not nasty comments, but good footprint. It can be as simple as, how did you crack a sales deal that nobody did? How did you do it differently? It can be just 4 pointers, but you're sharing with the world. You're showing that it may be a very small topic, but I know on this topic more than other people, right? You should know what your target segment, and you should build your network accordingly. If I'm in HR and I want to work with entrepreneurs, that's my target, right? Entrepreneurs, other investors, other founders are my TG, right? So you'll have to make your TG accordingly. And last, I think very, very, everybody tells it, but not too many does it. Keep upscaling. You know what, I don't know when did you go for, and this is definitely you're spending time today upskilling, and I hope I've been able to add 0.1% to that knowledge of yours. I don't crib about Bangalore Drive. I drive 1 hour per day each way on the other side. I've been doing it for 7 years. I've never cribbed about it. And I'll tell you why. I use that 1 hour every day because I don't get time. I'm a mother to a 3.5-year-old, work is hectic. But that 1 hour each day I use for my self-development. I listen to podcasts. I listen to people who I aspire to become, right? I listen to what's happening in the world. I use that 2 hours to keep learning, consuming content that will make my perspective more diverse, right? So figure out these ways to keep upskilling, right? And if you don't have too many family liabilities, you can spend more time. But I think, if you are a content marketer, spend more time on video making. If you're a sales guy, start taking sessions on negotiation skill, building pipeline, building sales funnel. There are so many, right? If you're an HR professional, understand what recruitment does. If you're a recruiter, understand what are the HR framework, right? So there is so much to do, and keep upskilling with the mind that this is the North Star. You want to be a CBO. You are a sales guy. You need to know this skills, retention, onboarding, partnership, all of it, right? And try picking up those skills as you go by. But broadly, I think I've given a lot. I don't know how much retains, but yes, happy to take if there is any other question, and I can take it offline also if there are people who would want to reach out to me.
Hi, Rupali. Shubham this side.
Hey, Shubham, tell me.
Rupali, how generally recruiters generally take in terms of if we want to customize the compensation and ask for work from home after the COVID wave has gone?
See, I'll tell you what. It totally depends. Okay. I am a work from office person. If you ask me, I have my because I have a kid. I should be the first one to say work from home. But I'm a bit selfish from the point of view that my career is as important to me, right? So I would want to be more productive in that hour, right? So work from office I feel makes me more productive, right? So that's my preference. So if my preference is work from home, right, and that makes me more productive, then I would rather look at companies who encourages this, right? So again, once you same question, right? Once you know why you would want to change, if that's, if work from home is a core criteria of why you want to change or why you want, then you should look at companies who see, everything cannot be work from home. Na, आप sales role पे work from home नहीं कर सकते हो, right? A techie technically can do, but and I'll tell you why, guys. The moment your dependency on others increases, you go up. Work from home is not sustainable, right? When you are a junior person, you are most focused about your work, you have to deliver, then you can do work from home, but you can be highly productive. But as you go up, you'll have larger team, larger connect, more integration. It's, I will not say slog entire day, but a basic cadence of connecting twice, thrice a week is something that I will suggest. But if you want to negotiate, I don't think any company will create a policy for you only because you've asked, right? So don't spend so much energy on that. Rather, I will say, if work from home is a very, very important need for you, look at companies who encourages work from home, right? And be a bit realistic that agar aap sales pe ho, to work from home might not come by very easily.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, as you said that you should start making professional network through the LinkedIn all. So, and also you said to make a videos on sales. If you are going to do
videos, it can be text also. It need not
so
be.
we can make a short videos and sales, like you said, you should make sales video, negotiation, sales pipeline, and everything. Just upskill yourself and start posting that videos on
Yes,
LinkedIn.
see, I'll tell you what, I would take baby step, right?
Okay.
Video is generally next step, right? When I will ask you to make content.
Okay.
The written content is easy to change, easy to edit, all of it, right? So I think you should start putting things, right?
Okay.
And I'll tell you how. Every time, so today, if Jabir, you have applied, right? The moment I click on a LinkedIn, everything comes. How you have responded, your activity, did you put a nasty comment on somebody's post, what kind of content? We can see everything from a recruiter inbox, right? So I think put very positive content out there. Yeah. I think I got some questions here till Jabir comes in. Is someone laid off? Is it a good step going on a pay cut? I will tell you honestly, totally depends on what salary are you in. Did you take a salary which is so high, which doesn't justify your competence? Then taking a pay cut totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. You will know internally, can you justify the salary that you are earning? If you think that yes, you command and you earn, you definitely, please don't go for a pay cut. But if you think that I got lucky, I got a job, easy job, more salary, now I've got easily laid off, but you don't want, you're already used to that salary, you don't want to, then you're being a bit, you're closing your eyes to the world and say mujhe nahi dikh raha hai to kisi ko nahi dikh raha hai, kind of a thing, right? So answer to that question would be totally depends on what you are at when compared to your competence, and that's an internalization you have to do on your own. Yeah.
Ma'am, sorry, there was a network glitch. That's why I was not able to ask one more question. That you said start with the writing content and posting on social media. So starting with the content, first I should start writing content about the sales and sales negotiation. Then after later some time, I should start making videos on sales, right, ma'am? As you said.
Ideally, it need not be sales, it can be any area of your interest, right? I will also say, because if you've never done content, right, if you've never done, start looking at people whose content you enjoy.
Okay.
Right, you'll get inspiration. What do they write? How do they put their thoughts across? So spending, rather than rushing into doing something, I will say, and I'll tell you why it is important. There are so many of us. Some people stand out, right? Some people stand out. Some people stand out because they've been sharing more. But there is a thin line. If you're sharing more, but you're not sharing relevant, then you become a casual profile. So you need to be able to justify the content also, right? In our rush to write a lot of content, I don't want somebody to think that Rupali just write, but she doesn't know anything, right? But what I'm writing should be relevant for my TG, right? So go slow, look at people you respect, right? Look at how they're writing, start putting things out there so that you make a public persona of yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Great. If that's all, I think we've already crossed the time. Thank you, Juno team, for the opportunity. But I hope this was helpful, and I'd love to hear back from all of you in terms of what how I can be of help. But yes, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and maybe you just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll share my email ID. You can use that also to reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Rupali. I think it was a great session that we had. And, I think a lot of us got answers to a lot of questions that we've always been thinking about when it comes to cracking those interviews. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And, we have Rupali's email ID on the chat box. We have our links to our LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, and the Insta. So thank you so much, and let's connect next Saturday. And Saturday would be another interesting topic wherein we would always want you guys to be part of our community every Saturday between 12 to 1. Thank you so much, Rupali, and thanks everybody for joining in for today's session.
Pleasure. Thank you all, everyone, and have a good week ahead. Bye-bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a ton, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.